Hey guys, my name's Cole. This is the Perspective Podcast. This was something I created. It's my vision to bring together a group of interesting and beautiful people to hopefully have some really insightful and creative conversations. If we don't learn anything, then maybe you guys can learn something too in the process, either about us or just life in general. So thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you, and hopefully you stick around for the episodes to come. So see you in the next one. Oh wait, did you not want to get into position?
I mean,
it's fine. We're rolling. We're live. It doesn't matter. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our inaugural episode of the Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Cole, along with. Feel free to speak.
The co-host, I guess, or guest. I don't know. Thomas.
I mean, yeah, co-host. It works.
Okay, co-host right now. I guess I just got promoted, but Thomas.
Know your place.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you're just sitting quiet in the corner over there. I didn't know.
I don't know when to speak. I'm just used to people saying they give me a cue. I don't know.
You want me to give you visual cue?
That'd be great.
Speak.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I might not do that. Anyway, the formula for what we're going to be doing today, there isn't really a set structure that I have in place. Also, if anybody can hear the chair that I'm sitting in, I apologize.
It's a nice chair.
It's squeaky, but these mics pick up pretty much everything. So
make sure you don't fart.
Wasn't planning on it, but anyway, now I lost my train of thought. Appreciate that. You're back down to guest. You are no longer a host.
I know my place now.
There you go. No, okay. So we don't really have too big of a structure as of right now, which honestly is kind of how I want this to happen anyway, because I think to a certain extent the structure might take away from the genuineness isn't a word, but you know what I mean, the sincerity. There you go. Hey. Okay, you're back to host.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so this topic I thought about yesterday before I went into work. We couldn't do this yesterday because I think you were busy doing something, but
yeah, I was at South Carolina. I do cheer, so I was cheering on our football team, which
feel free to not say the school, because
yeah, I'll just tell you it wasn't the best game to cheer at.
Yeah, we'll talk about our putrid sports a different day, but yeah, I thought about this before I went into work yesterday, and then I kind of it loomed throughout the course of the day. So maybe some of what I was thinking of is diminished now. Hopefully not, or maybe if we get to talking again, it'll kind of remind me about what I was thinking about.
We'll see, because I don't even know the topic of what's going on.
Yeah, Tom's just going in this completely not knowing what the
I'm
topic
going in blind
is
right now, so I literally don't know what the structure of this or what this is. So
yeah,
you ready? Feel free to hit me whenever you're ready.
So it's funny. I was thinking about this in the car. I don't know if it was just the music kind of put me in this mood, or just thinking about other stuff, but it's kind of the concept of patience, and
okay,
I'm not a patient person really at all. I've gotten better about it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But patience more in the sense of rushing things that kind of need to take their time, which I guess is just kind of what patience means. But
yeah,
what I mean by that more is, and this is gonna get kind of not dark. It can be.
It could come off as dark, but it's not really.
Well, what I'm about to say can come off as dark, but yeah. I don't mean for it to offend anybody or bring up some sort of. But it's just in terms of what we're talking about. This is pretty. This holds weight into the conversation. But it just kind of struck my mind of maybe my impatience to a subconscious level kind of stems a little bit from you see stories all the time now about, I mean, dating back to like a few years ago, like school shootings and stuff like that were more common. what was it? The Uvalde, Texas was like the most recent, like really big one. That was tragic, but I like to that a lesser extent, but it's just the idea of like you don't know like when you're gonna go, like what's gonna happen. Because I mean, those kids, like, bless them, they just went to school, and then some moron went in there and just decided to kill a bunch of people. So stepping away from that subject, because that's a whole other like sensitive, we probably shouldn't really talk about that. It's just kind of like the principle of like life is precious kind of thing. You can like, okay, like tomorrow we could wake up and then like we could step out of our apartment and then like a cinder block from construction could like fall on you and kill you, and you would never know about it. So I don't know why, but like that just kind of, I don't know what music I was listening to yesterday morning, to be
you
honest.
must have been in the dumpster at that time.
That locked into work playlist got me thinking yesterday.
I'm gonna need to ask for that playlist later.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just joking.
But yeah, okay. So just right now, I guess, thinking about that, like, part of me rushing things, or why people might be more inclined to kind of like do something they might not be as prepared for, because they feel as though like, well, you know, I could be dead tomorrow kind of thing. So
yeah, I kind of understand that, but how I like kind of see, because I've actually like been thinking about that too recently, just because like I had like a death in the family recently, so like that's actually been on my mind for a little bit too, now that you bring that up, about like the concept of patience, and like, you know, should we wait for things because we have so much time in life, or should we, you know, do things out of our comfort zone, or like do things that, you know, we feel like isn't happening or shouldn't be happening at the age that we're at. You know what I'm saying? So like, for
that part, that's on my throat. That part kind of confused me. What do you mean by that? Like our age?
So like, you know how like throughout our lives, like at certain ages, we should be doing this or something like that. Like a great example, like most people graduate around the age 21, 22, and then after that, they usually either go to like grad school or like go to find a job. And some people, like the average age in like America is like for marriage is like 28, 27, and people should be married by that time, and people should have kids at like 30 or 32. Like that's what I mean by like we should be doing it at like the age, like the correct age, quote unquote. I only say that just because like as like in society, like that's how people see as normal, I guess.
I mean, well, were you like going to continue on?
Yeah, well, I was going to say like the concept of like patience like windows me down, because like a lot of people think we should be doing those at those age, and we should be waiting for that, versus like we shouldn't have to wait for like things like that. We shouldn't have to like decide when's the perfect time, or this is the perfect time, or maybe like 5 years down the road that would be a better time versus now. Like my philosophy is like, if it's not the best time now, it will be tomorrow, and you can always try again tomorrow.
See, but that's the crux of like what we're talking about, because tomorrow's not promised, so you never know. Which the reason I asked if there was like a second part to what you were talking about was, it makes me think, because like I'm sure we've talked about this, but like we've had conversations with other people too about like nowadays. I mean, like for my parents, it was like somewhat similar, and like I know like years and years ago, like it just it really, I don't know if it's just trended towards this way, but I mean like for everybody it's different. But like to me, it seems like the age for when people get married has like gone down over like the generations, because like nowadays we see people starting to get married. Like, okay, my sister got married when she was 17, which that's, in this situation, might be like somewhat of an anomaly, because, I mean, 17 is pretty young. But my other sister, she got married at 23, 22, which like to me that sounds like pretty young, because
that's like fresh out of college.
Yeah, like that's only a year away, a year or two away from where we are right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me that's been strange, because in my mind, I mean, this is subject to change, but I mean, going off what the topic is, sometimes it can cause you to think like maybe like, well, I'll expand on that, but just kind of the idea of, or my belief is that's like really, not really, but I think that's kind of premature. I know I'm like my brain's all scattered right now.
I was about to say, I was like, I'm trying to follow your tracks. Okay, yeah, I'm there now.
21 to like 23, I think is maybe like a little bit premature, because for me, I would want to like I want to be a couple years removed from college maybe, and like be in my career. Yeah. Because also too, I want to have kind of like a traditional like wedding at like a pretty nice venue and everything. And I mean, if you're like, depending on maybe like if you've saved, or like if your parents are going to cover it for you, or whatever the case is, if you're like 21 through like 23 or something, you're not really going to have the requisite funds, I feel like, to be able to have that like dream wedding. Yeah. Because my uncle, I've only been to 3 weddings in my life, but like 2 of them were like years and years ago, so I don't remember them. Yeah. My most recent was junior year of high school, sophomore year of high school.
Wow, okay.
But they were like 30 something when they got married. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I mean, like 30s, maybe you can look at it and be like, oh, that's like the prime time, because you're already like years into, I would think, years into like your field. Maybe you've already like gone up a level or two. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'd say probably like 27, maybe somewhere around there. I would think maybe is like a better age, because like it also falls around like the whole kids discussion too. Yeah. Like, I mean, I know some people like have kids before they get married. Mm-hmm. That's not really how I want to do it. Yeah. I mean, I know, like, power to you, however you want to do it. But like, same thing with that's happened too. Like, people are starting to have kids at like 24, 25. I'm like, bro, you've only, if you chose to go to college, you've only been out like 2 years or like a year. So I'm like, that's a lot of, because also, I mean, this kind of goes along with the subject, but part of the reason too why marriage is different, because like if you find that right person and the time is right, then that's different than having a child. But like if you have a kid at like 25, 24, something like that, and like this isn't a knock to anybody that's had kids when they were that young, but like I feel like I would just want to like live my life a little bit before I like made such a commitment like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's just, it's weird that you like say that, just because like now, especially with like the mass amount of different people I've met throughout my life, it's so interesting to hear like different perspectives. So like from your perspective, it's a
cue the theme music.
Well, from your perspective, it is a great idea of like, yeah, some people want to like live their lives and stuff like that, and like want to, you know, experience things throughout their lives with their significant other before they have like kids or before they want to have marriage. But there's also some people that I've met that's also said that they feel like they've already experienced everything they need to, and they already want to settle down. Like a great example would be like someone that I'm talking to right now said that, like, talking about down the road, like she wants to, you know, kind of just be like settled down right now. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I don't want to be settled down and married at 22, 23 and having kids at 24. But like I don't want to go dating around anymore. Like I've not saying I had that phase, but I don't want to go through that phase. Like I don't want to go through a phase of like dating 6 different girls each month or something like that. And it's just because like I think it just either the level of like readiness you are in life, because like a great example of what you were talking about, how like some people at the age of like 24 and 25, when they get married and have kids, like you would think like they wouldn't have like a great job in order to have like the wedding they want or like be ready for kids, but like some people just already have that already, and it's probably by accident. Like a great example, we know some people in high school that had kids freshman year of college, and I know some people that got married recently and they didn't have like a real wedding. They didn't want a real wedding. They wanted like, it got inaugurated to like an actual wedding, like a marriage. but like there was no family or anything there. Just they got married. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Quick and easy. And I think it just depends on like the different people, the different like level of readiness, and the different, I think, maturity of like how you are. Because, you know, I feel like the more mature you are, the more ready you feel like in life, versus like some people that still want to live out their lives. Like a great example, one of my best friends, he is almost 25 now, and he's still acting like a child, like to this day. You know who I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure I know him.
He's gone to like probably, by the time, first off, he's 25, 26, you would, like close to 25. You would think he graduated undergrad college. Nope, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with not graduating like on time. Like there, in my opinion, there isn't really an on time in graduating college anymore. But he's gone through, by the time he does graduate from his undergrad, he would have gone to 6 different colleges, which once again, nothing wrong with that. It's just the choices of why he's gone to 6 different colleges is not the best decisions, as I can say in short. But yeah, like there's different people and different levels of readiness. And for my friend, I don't think he's ready to take on the real world just yet, which is why he's still trying to live out his life. And I think by the time he gets to the age around like, I'd say 30, that's when he's going to start realizing like, oh, maybe I should actually like take my life a little bit more seriously, you know, be a little bit more mature and all that. So I think like I guess going back to your theme of like patience is what like kind of it's really interesting to think about, because it's the definition of patience is a universal definition, but everyone lives patience differently is the best way I could really explain it. Because your level of patience is still, in my opinion, a really high level of patience. Like, even though as much as you say you don't think you have a lot of patience, I think you do have a very high level of patience for certain things, just like I am.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that regard, because like, okay, so I don't remember who I was talking to about. Wow, English. Oh my goodness.
Happens to the best of us, brother.
I don't remember who I was talking to about this the other day. There we go. Now I can hit the applause button on the but yes, thank you. But like, okay, so for instance, like fast food. Mm-hmm. Like fast food is in the name. You go, you get it. What? You're there for like 5 minutes, hopefully, like on a good day.
5-10 minutes, yeah.
I've never been one to like, if they take a long time, like with my order, to like snap at somebody for it. Like that might come with age, because like I know a lot more like moms and dads or like older people that have kids, or like they have some place to be. They're like, what the heck is taking so long? Like, what's going on? But like me, just being a college student, if they take like 10 extra minutes with my cheeseburger or whatever, and they bring it out, sometimes too, like depending on the restaurant, they'll compensate you for it. They'll give you like a free fry or whatever. But like I've never been one to like, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm like, it's about time or something like that. So like in terms of stuff like that, I have pretty good patience. I'm trying to think. Maybe something more like assignments or something that maybe, I guess maybe too, it kind of like comes down to a level of stress, because like I'm not really super stressed about when my like food's gonna get out on time. I know it sounds like some like privileged trash, because like, oh, I know my food's coming. Just a matter of when.
See, it's kind of funny that you bring that up, because especially assignments. So like, I think we kind of have to differentiate like what we mean, or like when we use like different levels of patience. So like when you're talking about like patience over like waiting for food, in my opinion, that's just kind of like idle patience, where you're just literally doing nothing, just waiting, versus patience for assignments, meaning you actually have to take time out of your day to sit and do assignments, which is like actual mental strength to do that work. And like that's a whole different level of patience versus like waiting in line for food, in my opinion, which I think we don't really have to, but like in my opinion, those are like 2 different levels of patience. Because like patience for food, like I said, just you're sitting there idly waiting, just kind of mindless. Like you're not really thinking about, like, hey, where's my food? Or like, you're not thinking about like, hey, like it depends of like the situation. Like a great example would be like if you are at work and you have like a 30-minute break to go get lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your patience would be a lot less tolerable. Like you would have a lot less tolerance of patience because you have 30 minutes for a lunch versus if you didn't have 30 minutes, like you just had all day long.
Yeah.
So like I think it just depends on situation like that.
I think too, as you were talking, it kind of like made me think of something, which is like, still going off the food example, is like if you're at a restaurant, say you're like, okay, Chick-fil-A or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Chick-fil-A, I mean, that might be a pretty difficult example because like they have some of the best, if not the best, like customer service. Like they pride themselves on that with the whole like my pleasure thing.
Yeah.
But like, okay, if you like go into Chick-fil-A and you like buy something and there's some complication, like a machine broke or like whatever the case may be, you know you're going to leave with some sort of like compensation for that. Yeah. So either like however they can give your money back, give you a gift card, or like if you have to wait however long for their machine or whatever to get working again, you're going to leave with some, hopefully, unless you're just like fresh at a time and you got to leave. Yeah. So you're like, okay, I'm out of here. Like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You're going to leave with some sort of compensation. Whereas in terms of like an assignment or something, you might put in like a decent amount of time into something. It's kind of like some sort of principle, like the high risk, high reward, or like high risk, low reward kind of thing. Because like, okay, food, you're going to get something back. But if you put in a lot of time into like an assignment, or like school is the only thing really that I can like think of right now as a good example, but you might put in a lot of time and effort into something, but you also, okay, like say you spent like 2 hours writing a paper or doing some sort of like case study or something, and you think you did a really good job, but you get it back and the professor, whoever, is like, oh, this isn't really like what we were looking for, and you get like a D on it or something. That you wouldn't really feel like you were like compensated.
It's kind of demeaning, yeah.
Because whereas food, when you're only waiting for like 5-10 minutes, you still get compensated. If you spend like hours working on something, like, do you see what I mean? Going down the road of like, going along with what you said of like kind of like defining
patience.
Not just that, but like the value that you put into it.
I think like what you're trying to find is like the incentive is what I was thinking of, because like there's not really an incentive to do assignments, because other than like getting a good grade, but like getting a good grade is like kind of what you want is the incentive, quote unquote. But to get that, you have to have like hard work, versus like when you're like going back to Chick-fil-A example, like the incentive is that the longer you wait, like you probably will get a reward or like some compensation back. So like that's why you don't feel as, I guess, bad for waiting a little bit longer.
I mean, that's why I also said too, like Chick-fil-A might be a bad example, because they'll give you like half the menu if you're waiting there for like 5 minutes, and they'll be like, oh, we're like super sorry, here's my car that I drove to work today. So I mean, like that's a different example, but it follows, I think, the same principle of like something that's, you don't really put a whole bunch of effort into, because you just say your order and like swipe your card.
Yeah, well, I guess like if you're trying to think of like, I think like the best way, if you're trying to think about like putting in work, like comparison to like assignments, would probably be like a job. Like a best example would be, let's say you're given a job that has to, that's based on commissions, not like hourly. So like, let's say you have to sell like a certain amount of products in order to meet your quota for the day, right?
Yeah.
So a great example would probably be like a door-to-door salesman. Let's say you're a door-to-door salesman and your quota for the day is like 10 sales, right? If you get 10 sales, that means you are done for the day. Like you don't have to go selling more. That's an incentive for like, because you're still putting in hard work and you're helping your company, right? But if you get your 10 sales in, you leave work early. That's an incentive, and that's kind of like a high risk, not high risk, but like it's a high reward. I mean,
the risk to reward ratio might not be like the best example. It just kind of like popped in my head because I feel like it's a somewhat similar concept.
Yeah, I feel like it's a patient. I wouldn't say high risk for high reward. I think it's just like your patience for selling like trying to sell more is more likely if you know that you're trying to leave early, or finish work early. Same as like homework. Like, you know how like at least I've been trying to do this recently to get myself to do more assignments and like doing it earlier is that if I do it earlier, I have more time to do other things in my life. Like I value the gym a lot, and like recently assignments and practices and stuff like that has been like getting in the way of like the gym, so I haven't been able to go as like super consistently as I used to be. Like I used to go like 7 days a week, but now like there's some days that I either can go but it's not like a full workout, or like some days where I literally just flat out can't because the gym closes or stuff like that, or like I have like 2 more assignments to do before like due tonight that I like don't have time to go to the gym and finish it. So I've been trying to like incentivize myself, like, all right, if I can finish most of the assignments today that's due on Wednesday, then on Wednesday I can go to the gym after practice or something like that. Like the incentivification of like, which is the same concept as like, you know, if you're able to sell 10 commissions, you get to leave work early. So
yeah, I think going back to the original thought of kind of like, well, patience, but the whole like you don't know when you're gonna go kind of thing.
Oh yeah, we strayed real far.
No, I mean it followed like the same path. We were within the same like realm of what we were talking about, because that led to a pretty good discussion. But shoot, I forgot the immediate thing that I was gonna say. But so there were 2 things that I wanted to bring up to you, because I don't think you've heard either of them. The first one was actually, I think, funny enough, this was from Logan Paul when I don't know if it was on his podcast or he was talking about something else. It was just like almost like a candid kind of video. But going back to our whole like age thing, when you think it's like something might be right for you, I think this was Logan Paul. I could be very wrong, but it was like an Instagram reel, so that's my source is Instagram.
You love the sources.
But he said something about, and I'm gonna like botch this, so I'm gonna try and remember as verbatim as I can, but it was something like your 20s, a lot of people think is the time for you to just kind of like cram in everything, and you really need to just kind of just like fit in as much as you can, because like later on in life you're not really going to have as much time to do so. And I think he said that was like the totally wrong way to look at it, because he's like 26, 27. He's still pretty young.
Yeah.
But he said that from his experience, I mean, it's different because he's a millionaire and has lived like a pretty full life so far, I'd say. But his advice was that we need to get rid of this stigma that like the 20s is the time where you need to like cram everything in. Like like your 20s are probably, I'd say most people or a good amount of people would agree with this, like some of the best time of your life, because like when you turn 21 you can drink. I don't know why that was the first example that I brought up, but that's just,
I mean, it's
your
like
early
one
20s.
of the most common examples. Like it's like your best introduction into the 20s, I would say.
I mean, a lot of people, myself included, are thinking that like past 21, I mean, it's just kind of like a number tacked on.
I feel like I actually had this conversation the other day about like ages within the 20s yesterday with my athletic trainer, because we were talking about like, one of my friends is the youngest friend out of like our friend group, and I'm the second oldest. But we were talking about age, and she turns 21 next May, and my flyer, because I do cheer, turns 21 before she does, even though she is like 2 years younger than her, like in levels, in respects of like classes. Like in college she's a sophomore, but my friend that's not even 21 yet is a senior. And we were talking about this because like the only thing after the age of 21 is really 25, which is 2 things. A, you can rent a car at 25, and B, your insurance goes down at 25.
Well, 26, I think, unless we're talking about 2 different things. 26 is like you can get off your parents' insurance, right? Or like
yeah,
your
but
parents
25, your insurance does decrease under your parents' insurance. So like,
I don't think I knew that.
That's so like once you turn 25, like because most of the time people are still on their parents' insurance, your insurance does decrease I would say like a significant amount because you now are out of college for the most part.
Yeah.
So there isn't much insurance needed during those times because like you're most of the time on average in America, most people are a lot less reckless at the age of 25 and older because that's where people are looking for jobs, trying to like make a living now, trying to find like a house to live at or a place to stay at. Like they're not going through college still again and like partying all the time and stuff like that. Hence why it's like 25 is around the age because that's where the average human being does that. So, but like you're right, anything after like 21s for the most part is just a number in my opinion because I turned 22 not soon, but like I turned 22 like pretty like in February, next February. But like I'm not really looking forward to it because there's nothing for me to celebrate besides like yes it's my birthday, but like I feel like there's just nothing to do anymore at that point.
Yeah,
because you've basically turned the age of something new. Like there's nothing new. Like when I turn 25, I'm not gonna go rent a car. Like there's no purpose for me to do that. Like
it's like you might take shots on your 21st birthday. We're like, oh man, let's go rent you a car on your 25th birthday.
Like when you turn 21, they're like, oh yeah, like buy a drink finally, or you know, here try this drink or take a shot. 25, I'm not gonna wake up and be like, you know what? I feel like renting a car today.
I got some time on my hands. Let's go.
Let's spend $60.
Let's go rent me a vehicle.
Let's spend $120 a day for a car, like per day.
Yeah,
no,
sick.
Not worth it.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Logan's kind of perspective on, because it's funny. So when that whole like controversy, I hope I don't have to bring up what it was, but like years ago with him,
that was like way
he was going to get like canceled, quote unquote. I wasn't like a huge fan of his. And I mean, like, I'm not like a huge fan of his now, but like it's cool because he's come like a really long way, and he's made sure to kind of, he's still like in the limelight, but he's also made a very big point to just kind of dial it back a little bit, because he used to go kind of like full throttle with some of the stuff he did, obviously, but he stepped it back while also like catering towards his audience and still kind of like being a public figure. So I mean, this sentence doesn't really mean anything, but like I'm proud of him in that sense of like because there was, I can't remember, I think it was some other like YouTuber or something had like a huge controversy or something that they were going through, and like the whole cancel culture thing was all over that.
That was in high school. That was when we were in high school, about like junior, senior year. I don't know who that YouTuber is because I remember. Like,
well, do you know where I'm going with this story? Well, hold on. Let me finish it first.
I'll let you finish.
There was some other YouTuber or somebody that was also going through some sort of like scandal or controversy, and I'm pretty sure this was Logan. It came out that he reached out to them or like texted them or something and said, hey, believe me, I know what you're going through.
Yes, I do. I do remember that.
You're going to feel like this is one of your lowest points. Trust me and look at where I am now.
David Dobrik.
Was it? What did...
It was... So what happened with that was during... This was like a couple years after the whole situation with Logan Paul. But this is when David Dobrik's allegations came out about like him recording, basically recording girls having sex with like one of his like people that was in his squad without consent, basically. And he's posted it on YouTube.
Hold on. Unless I'm just like interpreting that.
So he didn't like record them having sex. He like... So, I don't know if you know, but David Dobrik has these, like, vlogs, obviously, on YouTube, and he's really famous for those. Yeah. And they're all, like, the same, like, 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Just 4 minutes and 20 seconds of just random clips throughout his day.
Really? I thought they were longer than that.
They're literally only 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And he has, like, random clips of, like, his highlights of the day, and one of the highlights was that his friend, they call him Dirty Dom in his, like, squad. Yeah. Because... I actually don't know why they call him Dirty Dom, but like he is, I would say, the epitome of like what a fuckboy is basically. Because he is.
Pardon the language.
Sorry.
People are okay to like say bad word. Like I'm not actually mad at you, but like we'll try and censor.
Yeah, sorry. I try to keep it PG.
But in the sense of what it is called in society,
yes,
fuckboy is probably the best.
Yeah, like he's the epitome of what fuckboy literally is, because he has like the voice. He wears a hat. He like that hat like of a frat
he has
boy.
a voice, or he has like a certain kind of
like the way he talks.
Ew,
is
he
like,
talks. What a sleazebag.
No, it's just the way he talks. Like he's like, oh man.
Dead kind of.
Yeah, he's like, man, I need me some girl. Like that kind of voice. Like, so one time like they all went to like the bars or like clubs, and like he brought home like a few girls, and
jeez,
some of the girls. Well, David Dobrik asked them like kind of just like as a joke, but like it kind of like it seemed very forced on them, asking them like, would you have sex with Dom, basically, and like it kind of like kept getting pushed on them that question. And
was that? Well, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, basically they kind of was like, no, not really, but he had the camera out, so then he was like recording like them, and basically like they felt peer pressure too. So then like they kind of said yeah, and then David Dobrik didn't actually like record the video of them having sex, but like he recorded the door behind it, and like you could hear all of that, and that was unconsensual. Yeah. So yeah, the girls in those videos came out and made allegations about that, and that's when everyone started canceling him. And David Dobrik went into like a deep depressive state, and that's when Logan Paul reached out.
That's wild. I don't think I knew that that's what it was centered around. Yes, I couldn't remember who like the celebrity was.
It was David Dobrik. I remember it now.
It sounds familiar that it was David, but I didn't know about
like what it was
about. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. But so Logan talked about he reached out to David, and he said, "I know that the world's going to seem like it's crumbling right now, but I promise you, like, it's not." And I mean, evidently so, like David came out of that, and he's still like really successful and doing pretty well for himself. I mean, sometimes I feel like that's also kind of just who your audience is, because like, okay, the whole Logan Paul thing, that was kind of more, I'm like, okay, David and Logan's thing were both really bad, but the Logan Paul thing I remember like was really bad.
I think like that was just like, this is what I was going back. I was going to say this earlier, but I think this is the perfect time to say it now, honestly. I think this goes back into like the readiness and like maturity of people in their lives, because at the time when Logan had that whole thing about him being canceled, and same thing with David, those were times in their lives that they thought they were more mature than they were, or they thought like they were on top of the world, basically. So it made them more reckless, and like they felt like they could do anything and like get away with it for the most part. So at that time, their maturity level and like their readiness in life was a lot lower versus now. I think Logan Paul is very mature now. I feel like he's grown up. He's acted very adult, like very much his age now. Even like honestly, he seems way older. Like when you said he was probably like around 26, 27, maybe even younger, like it kind of slips my mind that he's only a few years older than us, and like it's really weird to think about that, considering he acts super mature, and like he acts very like not a proper guy, I would say, but like more like, a civilized person. Like, because I see conversations about him, I see him talking to other people, and like he's a down-to-earth guy now, versus back then he was a very not down-to-earth guy. He was very like a mask or a face or a facade.
I mean, I think he was still down-to-earth. I think maybe it was more, at least like from my perspective, hit the button again. I think it was more like back then, and some people might still feel the same way now, but back then, like if you met Logan Paul, you'd kind of be or like if you saw him on the street, like wherever, you might like go say hi to him, but like it was still like with either pre or post controversy, it was still kind of like, oh, Logan Paul, like that annoying guy. But like now it's maybe more like, oh, like you saw Logan Paul like walking around the street, whatever. Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I think that once again goes back to the maturity level, because if you think about it, the people that are celebrities and stuff like that, most of them are mature, and like they have like that level of like, I feel like it's that level of respect. Like you have that level of respect for certain people like that, because people did really respect Logan Paul back then for what he did, and like now, even with that thing that still is there, like that what he did, like people respect him now for what he's done now versus what he used to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could also, on like a micro level, and that could be a whole separate conversation, but you can go towards like the whole like empathy standpoint of it, because like you have to think, if I made a mistake as bad as he did, I wouldn't want people to be like, we're going to take everything you have away from you and take your platform. You can never do what made you money again because of how badly you messed up. I think that speaks volumes too because like I said, I was not like a huge fan of his when like that whole thing happened. I thought he was incredibly annoying. So the fact everyone's like, we're shutting him down, I was like, yeah, I was like all for it and behind it. But honestly now, like, I don't really mind him that much. Like, I mean, obviously I brought him up for discussion on our podcast. So, but I think it was a pretty good lesson behind his. I mean, did you want to speak any more than that?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because this actually kind of brings me of like the quote that I wrote on the board. If you guys don't know, we have this like board in our apartment. It used to be just a board that we keep tallies of like the amount of times we go out and eat.
Yeah.
But we've now changed it to more of a positive thing where or a negative thing. It's just like a board of
sad boy hours board.
It's just a board of quotes that we find that speaks volumes to us. And right now a good majority of them are like Cole's quotes, but I have a quote up there that I wrote from the other night. And it says, I don't know if it's exactly like word for word, but it says, what people say about you are not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them.
Yeah.
So like I think Logan Paul really did turn that around, because like when he was getting canceled and everything, right, like he couldn't do anything about that. Like all he did was apologize for it. And yeah, he apologized for it. What else can he do, So
yeah,
all he did was, everyone was saying these things about him, like, oh, he's canceled, he's not a good person. Those were reflections of what people thought about him, not who he actually is. So,
I mean, that's kind of a thin line. We'll never know because we're not him. But I mean, I think it was also like Logan didn't actually think I mean, clearly, like he posted the video, so I don't think he genuinely believed he did wrong. Because I think I remember. I didn't watch the whole thing because, like I said, I wasn't like a regular to like his channel. I saw it pop up because it was like popular at the time, but I think I like actually watched the video. I didn't see the part about like the really bad thing that everybody talked about.
Yeah.
But I saw it like a couple days later. People were like, "Oh, we just can like let this slide." That's kind of crazy. So. I don't think Logan like really believed he did wrong, and then even when he issued his apology, a lot of people were saying like that looked fake, or like it didn't look like he meant it really much. I think now where he is showed that he meant it, because he, like I said, after that happened, he like borderline went off the grid, I feel like, because I mean, and he kind of had to, and then after a while it depended on how willing people were to receive his content after, but he put out a video like a couple months, maybe I don't think it was weeks. I think it was a good amount of time. I was at least like a month or something after he issued his apology, or like he tried to put out content again, and people were still on the whole like, get him out of here, like this is nonsense, we're not going to let him keep making content because kids was his primary audience, or like younger people. But yeah, so I don't.
Well, it's funny that you like bring up concepts of like being canceled and stuff like that, because there's like a controversy now. It's not obviously on the same like level of like David Dobrik and Logan Paul like at all. This is just literally about gaming. I don't know if you've seen this at all, but there's this girl on TikTok,
Nadia.
Yeah. She's like a big controversy thing.
I immediately knew what you were about to talk about.
She's like a big controversy thing right now, just because like her playing Modern Warfare versus playing when she played like the MW2 event with like Call of Duty are two different players basically, and everyone's just like accusing her of like cheating and like stuff like that. And like, now that everyone is basically like there's a wave of people saying that she's cheating, so everyone's just riding that wave right now. But like there's been also a lot of confirmations of people saying like she doesn't cheat.
It's funny, I didn't know she was going to get brought up in this, but
well, it was just the same concept, because like it's the allegations of like canceling her, because like when I first saw her on TikTok, like she claimed like, oh, she's one of the best like not Fortnite players, Modern Warfare players ever, like she's dropping 26 bombs, and I was like, okay, I believe that like there are good girls out there that play Modern Warfare.
Way to be open-minded, Thomas.
Well, I was just
attaboy.
I mean, like as a person that is terrible at games, and like you know better than anyone, I suck at like first-person shooters, especially when you play Apex with me, or when we used to play Call of Duty all the time. You would carry my ass all the time, basically. But sorry for the profanity, but it's kind of true.
It slips sometimes.
Yeah.
Can't blame you.
But like it's just so like I believed it, and like I didn't think much of it, and then just randomly I heard people like making allegations of like her cheating and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of believe them, because I see like clips of like her like I don't her saying there's a frame glitch or something like that, where she would be it's a clip of her shooting at someone, and then the person like glitches back this way, but her aim goes back that way too. I've seen a clip like that. Yeah, so like her not excuse, but like her explanation is a frame glitch. But like I've never had that happen ever in my life playing Modern Warfare.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny to see on TikTok, like people kind of like trashing on her. Like it's funny, but it's also just kind of that whole like, I don't know, like mob mentality almost. But
that's what I'm saying.
It's like funny to see, but it's also at the same time, because like Ninja spoke about this the other day. I don't know if you saw that clip.
Yeah, I did see that too.
But because I was thinking the same thing. Obviously, Ninja has a higher platform than we do, but he spoke on it, and he was like, well, you guys are also like stupid, because even if she is cheating, or like you think she's cheating, you're giving her so much publicity.
Yeah.
And like I thought the same thing, because like I said, like it was funny to like pick on her for it, but like I mean, I consider myself to be pretty good at, I guess, Call of Duty, but like I guess video games in general. But she could still smoke me like any day out of the week. I thought the story was still funny, but Ninja like completely hit the nail on the head of just being like, you guys are morons, because all you're doing is just
feeding into it.
Because like people, like if you didn't know about who Nadia was, you might be like, what? And then like go watch her stuff, and then keep watching it and be like, oh, she is cheating, or like you're trash, or like go into her comments, but you're giving her money literally.
You're literally doing the opposite of like what you should be, or like what you think you do.
What you should be doing. You should be not watching her stuff.
Yeah, just like it's like two negatives making a positive is basically what, like, in short. So like what you think you're doing like is trashing on her, but in reality it's really helping her and helping her get more like known, because once again, Nadia was not a person I knew about until randomly I heard about her cheating, and her claims of like trying not to cheat at the MW2 live event Call of Duty, and like her like looking around at like the event managers to make sure like they don't see her cheats and stuff like that.
I think I saw some of those clips.
Like I once again don't know anything about Nadia, have never watched her play Call of Duty once. Like her live streams would like pop up my TikTok. Obviously I would scroll by because I don't have time to like sit and watch it live, but like every time I have like scroll by, I would look and it would just be saying respawn waiting every time I look at it.
I mean, well, I'll finish on this comment about Nadia, and then we can move to the second subject I was going to bring up. But the only thing I don't like, it like this is just consistent, like regardless of who you are, but I don't like how kind of either in response to everyone saying that she was cheating, or like just in general, but I'm not a fan of like super cocky individuals.
Me neither.
So like when people were coming out and saying like, oh, you're cheating or whatever, you've probably seen this clip because people edited it, where she said like, you're just upset that a girl is better than you at video games or whatever, and people would cut to her like just getting trashed in the game or something, or playing. It's terrible, like and super misogynistic, but like it's like sandwich making simulator or something, and it's terrible. But so like that's the only thing. Like it has nothing to do with her being a woman or anything like that, but like just cocky people in general, I'm not like a huge fan of.
I'm the same way.
Because like kind of even with like I like Nick Marks, but like sometimes he's too full of himself. I'm kind of like, bro, that's not like a good look for you. I know it works for him, obviously, because he's super successful, but sometimes. Like, I find him funny, but, like, sometimes he'll say stuff I'm like, nah, that's kind of stupid.
Well, see, I think the difference between, like, Nadia and, like, other content creators, especially, like, Nick Marks, is that Nick Marks and, like, other people... A great example, in my opinion, would be, like, Tim the Fat Man.
Yeah.
He is cocky, in my opinion. But he also sometimes owned up to, like, being trash. And that's what's funny about that.
I mean, I haven't really seen the super cocky side of Tim, also because, like, Tim... dies a lot in video games and like a lot of the times in like really stupid ways, so he picks on himself.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, like he owns up to it is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like times like that he owns up to it, and Nick Marks especially, like he is cocky, but like at the same time, like if he does trash, he either A, plays it off like it's funny, or B, he owns up to like man, I like one of the best clips I've ever seen from Nick Marks recently was him playing Apex, and he is really far away. He has the R99. I
think I know where you're about to go with this.
Guns, and he shoots two mags, and he says, "Give it back, Grandma. Let me." He's like, "Grandma, you said you hit shots. Give me that back."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Bro, that's so funny." But that's the thing. He owns up to it, or he makes a joke out of it. Versus Nadia, she would either not say anything about it, or just like keep going with it.
I'm curious, and we'll finish on this for her. But I'm curious, like, if there's clips of her out there, like. If she is on her lives or whatever, if she just like stinks up the joint, if she says something like, she leans over and checks, she's like, oh, I don't have my VPN turned on or whatever, that's why I'm doing so bad. So because that's
no,
what
I've seen I wouldn't say like own up to it or like make it funny, but I've seen her say like, oh, those were good shots, like I that's why I would die, but like that's not funny, like that's just like, all right, she owns up to it, cool, but like
I mean I think it's just where we see more bad from her than we do good, because it's like a trend right now for people like, oh, Nadia sucks.
Yeah, like it's kind of like you're basically looking for bad.
Yeah,
like you're trying to find the bad versus like, because there's a saying I actually heard from my psych class, like there's so much good you can do, but as soon as you mess up, that's the highlight of everything. Like that's what everyone will focus on. Like you can save thousands of lives, but you let one patient die. Everyone's going to focus on that one failure you did versus...
Well, not just that, like... Damn, I said we're going to finish on Nadia, but this is going to stem a whole other thing. This is what we'll finish on.
Okay.
That's also, too, I think... Well, not I think. That's why I can never be in some sort of, like, medical field, because if I were a doctor or even an assistant to that stuff, or, like, nurse or whatever... Man... Props to those people, honestly, for like being in those professions.
Like, so much emotional stuff.
If anything like that happened, because also I don't hear about it as much. I'm almost positive that it happens like decently frequently, but stuff like surgeries might go wrong sometimes. And even though that you went to school and you trained like your life for stuff like that, unfortunately, mistakes happen.
Yeah, there's unexpectations. Like there's some things that unexpected comes up.
But also you could be performing an operation or something, and you just like mess up, and it costs somebody like their life, or like they become paralyzed or something like that, and you have to live with that. So that's why I'm saying props to those people, because I could never be in that field or live like that, because. You're right. Like if a patient dies on your watch, you feel like that's your fault. Like you could have done more, even though maybe you couldn't have. So, and that on a super, I'm searching through the weeds right now to circle it back around, but
okay. I mean, you don't have to circle it back around. You can literally just say like,
no, but I was gonna say like it. That can also kind of go back to our whole like. You don't know how long you're going to be here kind of thing. So,
I see.
But anyway, straying from Nadia and whatever conversation we were just having about it.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think I told you that I started watching a show. I'm not 100% sure, but this does pertain to the original subject field we started about, kind of like patience and just kind of seizing your opportunity kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Have you watched Cobra Kai at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I told you I was starting to watch it, right? Or I wanted to.
You told me about it, but I think I'm not gonna lie, I think it went in one ear out the other, just because it was something like, it wasn't like super significant in my opinion.
No,
like,
I mean, I don't. It's not like
It's
super.
like me telling you I went to go to school.
Okay.
Like it's not really.
I mean, I listen, so I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
whatever.
No, but so the reason I bring up Cobra Kai is, and I've only watched the first season because I think it came out in like 2017 or something. I didn't realize. I thought it was like somewhat new, but they're in like season 5, so I guess like they've definitely put the time in. But the reason I bring it up, and I recommend that you watch this show, but if anybody listening to this hasn't seen Cobra Kai, and this isn't like a super big spoiler, so like that's why I don't have any problem like bringing this up to you.
Okay.
But from what I've watched, only like the first season so far, it follows a story of a kid. I think his name's Miguel. I'm almost positive.
Don't look at me like I know.
I'm looking at you to think, not really expecting you to answer
You
that
look at
question.
me like I know. I'm like, dude, I haven't watched. The only show that's close to Cobra Kai that I watched was Kicking It. Beckett.
Well, also
Disney Channel.
the only yeah, that was a good show.
It was a great show.
Also, like the only reason I'm looking at you for that is because like I'm like 90% sure his name is Miguel, but if I'm just thinking like, oh, it's some Spanish kid and I just made up the name Miguel, I don't want to sound racist about that. But I'm almost actually hold on, let me Google this real quick because I need to be able to sleep tonight knowing that
I was about to say, I think he needs some reassurance in order to feel like he feels more. I guess I don't know. It's okay. I suck at names too, especially with like a bunch of shows that I watch.
Okay, yes, his name is Miguel.
Okay, you saved yourself there, buddy.
Woo, dodge a bullet. That's sad too because I'm like. Anyway, let's go back. But so from what I've seen so far, it follows a kid named Miguel who he doesn't have a father figure in his life. The show
I can relate.
Yeah, we could talk about that some other day. But the show follows. It takes place. I don't know if you have. I think we talked about this the other day. But I don't think I've seen, or at least I can't remember, like the original Karate Kid movies. Which I mean, a lot of people might say is a crime because they're like really good, or at least the first one is. I think some people said that.
I watched the first original one, and then I didn't watch the second one.
I saw the Jaden Smith one, but that's not what this.
Yeah,
is
but I
about.
remember watching the first one, like the original one, and then the Jaden Smith one. They're pretty close, but there's a lot of scenes that are cut out. But anyways, going back.
I mean,
to your
it's
point.
like they're those like cheesy like 80s karate.
Yeah.
But the story is revolved around Johnny, who is the kid that oh god, this is terrible because I literally like I just watched this show. Ralph Macchio's character, freaking Daniel. Oh my goodness, Daniel's son. That's where that comes from. I don't know how that escaped my mind.
Okay.
Daniel. So it follows a story of Johnny, the kid that Daniel beat in the karate tournament. So like the famous like crane kick. It's the story about that blonde kid that he beat. Which like even just saying that, you can say like that's a pretty good premise of the show, and which is why I encourage you to watch it. Because the episodes are also only like 30 minutes, so they don't take that long.
So like their actual TV show episode long.
Yeah. We need to get away from the hour, but we could talk about film and TV another day. Anyway, wow, we get sidetracked talking about this stuff, but it makes for good conversation. So there we go. But so the show follows Johnny, and it's like years down the road, and he's still not kind of completely over the loss of the karate tournament.
Really? Wow.
And he lives at this like little apartment complex or whatever, and this kid Miguel, who I bring up, he didn't have a father figure because that pertains to the story, but he sees Johnny, and I don't really remember like what he saw in him, but he was just kind of like, hey, he saw Johnny like do karate at one point, because I'll try not to go like super in depth, but they were like at a gas station, and then like Miguel was getting like bullied, and Johnny like beat the kids up or whatever.
I think I've seen that scene before.
To like protect him.
Yeah.
And then after that he was like, yo, can you teach, because they like live right next to each other, so like they recognize each other. He's like, can you teach me that? And then like the show follows kind of like their story of, because Cobra Kai, the program that Johnny was in, was very like, they're the villains of the story, so they're very like no mercy, like only kind of like the Sith in Star Wars, to like go and nerd on you, like use your anger, kind of stuff like that.
Breaking bones.
Yeah. Kind of cheesy, but we'll cut that in post.
I said type stuff.
Oh, I didn't. Well, Damn, I should let you finish. Oops. So the thing about the show, which I wanted to bring into this discussion, was Johnny's philosophy of teaching these kids, which was which was different than what Daniel learned, because Daniel and Mr. Miyagi learned a lot about like balance and kind of like karate is for defense, not offense. Johnny's is the complete opposite, hence like why he was the villain in the show. But one of his philosophies, which kind of revolves around this idea of patience and not waiting, in the sense was, part of his story was he kind of regretted, I think part of Johnny's story, I could be very wrong, so anybody listening to this that's seen Karate Kid, you'll know where I'm going. It might not be accurate, but you can't, the philosophy that he teaches Miguel and the other kids that come to the program is you can't sit around and wait, or like, it's kind of in a completely appropriate sense, like don't take no for an answer kind of thing. Because there's a scene where Miguel asks this girl out that he thinks is really cute, which happens to be Daniel's daughter, actually, which I'm not going to keep talking about it to spoil it. But
spoiling things, okay.
Yeah, my bad. But he really likes her, and they're at school, and he asks her out, and she was coming off a breakup. It was going to hit close to home, but he asked her out, and she's like, I don't know, like I'm still kind of like fresh off a breakup, like we're cool, I like talking to you, but I don't really know. And he walks away, and classic cinematography in most films and TV shows, it keeps the shot on him, it like she's in the background and he's like walking away, but it keeps a shot on his face, and he's like, and you can hear like Johnny's teachings in the back of his head, or he even says to himself, I'm pretty sure, he's like, no man, like you can't, don't let this slip from you, like take initiative here. So he turns around, he's like, okay, what if it's not a date that we go on, we just happen to be at the same place together, hanging out at the same time. And it was funny, and she was like, well, as long as it's not a date, and then it turns into a date, hence like, you know how but yeah, I think that lesson in Cobra Kai is pretty interesting. I think to a smaller level, because Johnny's more imposing kind of on, and again, this is the language of the show, I wouldn't say this otherwise, but his whole, did I just unplug my mic? Okay, no.
Good.
His whole thing is like, don't be a pussy. And I hate that word too, so, but that's what Miguel kind of like keeps telling himself, which might not be like, especially like for a kid that's like in this show, that might not be the best like lesson to teach somebody. It's like that word, but it's a sense of like, don't wait. Like if you know that you want something, like
fight for it,
take care of it now, because you don't know, because part of like Johnny's whole thing was, if Miguel didn't do that, like if he didn't go up to her and was like, hey, let's go on a date, even though it's not a date, even it was a date, but then who knows, maybe like tomorrow she was just in a funk that day, and tomorrow like some other kid can come by and be like, hey, I really like you, let's go get food together, kind of thing. So I thought that was really cool. Stuff happens in the show that I'm not going to talk about, but for the time being, when I saw that on screen, which is why I really need to like finish the show, because it is really good. But for the time being, that was really sweet, and that kind of like impacted me a little bit, because even though it's focused around like high schoolers and like teenagers, there's, which is the case for a lot of like movies and TV shows anyway, there's lessons that are taught in a certain way that might not directly relate to you, but
it can be applied.
But the lesson from it you can take out. Like, like for instance, Spider-Man: Homecoming, when that came out, we were still in high school. And there were a lot of lessons about like love and just friendship in that movie that I kind of took away as well. But for Cobra Kai, even though I'm like a couple years removed from the position that they're in, I think that lesson was pretty interesting.
I think like, especially with movies, I think there's always lessons that can be taken away from, like, even especially like now there's like Disney movies that are coming out now that are, you know, geared towards kids, but like I still watch sometimes and still learn other things. Like a great example, this is a really weird way that I learned a lesson, but I watched a film theory. I don't know if you know who like film theory is. A guy that
It's like the game theory kind of.
yeah, it's a game theory guy. It's the same guy, but like it's a different
Matt or whatever.
yeah.
Really?
Matt Pat. He's the same guy, but like
Good for him.
he has so many channels, but he has this one for films. Like he has one for films, he has one for cooking. So I watched some of his film theory stuff about like certain shows or like TVs and stuff like that. And I was watching his one on Rick and Morty, and it was just one about the new season that came out with this new episode. And I'm not going to spoil it for you if you're going to watch it. But it's basically like the main theme of the episode was about grief and like how to handle grief and like how different people handle grief.
Was this one of the newer seasons?
This is like literally season 6, literally that came out like a couple weeks ago.
Because I think I stopped after 4 maybe. So
Okay,
yeah.
So season 6 just came out and they're like coming out with episodes now. I'm waiting for the episode this week. But anyways, going back to like handling grief and how to handle grief. Like there are in the show, there's 2 people in the show that handle grief 2 different ways, and how they exemplify it, they make it seem like one way they handle grief is better than the other way, but in the grand scheme of things, both ways is actually bad ways to handle grief. And like it made me think about like how to handle grief, because literally I watched that like 3 days after getting back from Texas and all that, with my own stuff handling with grief and everything. That it made me think about like, am I handling grief the correct way? And like that's what I'm saying. Like handling those different like lessons, especially going back to your lesson of like don't wait for things basically and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they're applicable in so many different ways from like movies, TV shows. But like going back to your lesson of like maybe you shouldn't wait. I think there's like there's a fine line, I would say, to how you use that like patience or like go for what you would say don't be a pussy philosophy. Because I think yes, in most things it's okay to do that, but I think there's also some things that once again you should be patient about and just let it unravel versus unraveling it by yourself.
It's interesting we bring up like Disney movies kind of and like the message of it. Have you seen Soul?
Mm-mm. I heard about the concept though.
Let me tell you.
I heard about the concept, because isn't it about what is it, a kid that goes into like the undead world and like his grandparents or something? Or no, that's Coco. Sorry,
I was like, is this man talking about Coco?
That's
That
Coco.
is not.
I haven't even watched Coco either. Soul is about something
Okay, you
else.
got some work to do, my boy.
Okay, see, I'm gonna tell you one thing about you. Like, there was one thing that you guys can learn about me is that I do not keep up with movies at all. I'm so bad at movies. Like, it's because they come out in theaters and I'm too poor to go watch these movies, and I just don't watch movies in general that often. Like when I do, it's usually horror movies or stuff like that by myself. So this is a great example. The most recent Marvel movie I watched in theaters was Endgame, and I haven't watched any other movie after that. Okay, except Spider-Man: No Way Home. No Way Home was another one I watched in theaters. But
I mean that. In some people's mind, that's okay.
Yeah, but there's like 3 other like Marvel movies that came out, and I still haven't watched them yet.
Oh, there's been like more than that. It's been like 4 or 5, I think. Something like that.
Something like that. But still.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about this some other time. But
Yeah.
Well, going back to Soul, the reason I bring up Soul, I think it was made by the same people actually. But did you ever see Inside Out? Yo,
no.
dog, I gotta make like a list for you because
I know what Inside Out is about. Like I've heard the premise of it, and I've like watched some clips of it before, but I've never actually watched it all the way through. But I know what it is.
Well, maybe one of these days we can watch Inside Out, Soul, and Coco.
Okay.
Because all 3 are really good movies.
I heard they have like really good premises and like themes and like lessons to learn from. Because one of my favorite movies that I've learned a lesson from is Treasure Planet. Like, I love that movie.
I forgot to tell you, I watched that.
Really?
Like, somewhat recently.
Really? I love that movie.
Unless that's the one with like the space pirate ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. That was a good movie. I liked it.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorite ones, if not favorite, next to Meet the Robinsons. Funny enough, because they both talk about father figures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like, very deep and dark, but like growing up.
Treasure Planet was like really sad if you think about
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Like growing up with like especially me growing up without a father figure, watching a movie that's basically the same concept of like not having a father figure and like, you know, going through having someone that has that idea of a father figure and you look up to was so hard hitting, especially as a kid. Like I learned that when I not first watched it, but like when I was older and watched it again, I learned that really, really hard. But going off that tangent.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a good little discussion.
Yeah.
So, but the reason I bring up Soul and kind of like subsequently Inside Out, and like I said, I think they were made by the same people. Well, I mean, it's all Disney, but I think the people that worked on Inside Out worked on Soul.
The same like animators. Yeah.
Or like story, like whoever wrote the story, I think it was pretty similar. I could be wrong about that, but without giving too much away from it, or I hate the English language. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I hate it because I suck at it. So
I've gotten better at it somehow.
Without giving too much away, the premise of Soul is that this guy dies.
Okay.
And he goes to kind of like the world between life and death.
Oh, okay.
And he's on track to die. Like he's gonna go to like heaven, I guess. And he like strays off the path to see I think it's like the world like before birth. So like people finding their niche in a way. And a scene in the movie, like really, really powerful, which is why I want you to watch this movie at some point, is he goes through this gallery to see like the main moments of his life and like what his life like meant. And he goes through the gallery, and because like his whole ordeal is that he loves music, like jazz music or like soul music. And that helps him. And I feel pretty similar. It's different, obviously, because like I'm not a musician, but music helps me and it heals me too. But that's his like thing. Like that's what he believes he was like put there for, was like make music and express himself through that. But he goes through this gallery and he leaves, or he goes through it, and he was like, my life didn't mean anything.
Wow.
And Soul's actually like a really good example for this discussion because he died in a very unexpected way. And he goes through this gallery that showcased the main points in his life, and he's like, I did nothing. Like, even though I died in an unexpected way, but I thought that I lived this long, grand life. Or long, he was probably like 30 something, maybe 40 something when he died. But he was like, I thought I lived a life that had meaning and people cared about, but as he went through this gallery, he left and he was like, that's not true. Like none of that happened. And so the whole movie kind of revolves around like finding yourself and kind of it revolves around the Mark Twain quote that's like one of my favorites ever that I think you've probably heard because it was also in The Flash at one point. But it's the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I think that quote also can kind of go in Soul a little bit because the end of the movie, he still like does music, but he has like a completely different outlook on life because he spent a good majority of the movie trying to help somebody find who they are,
but not himself.
But in a way, like in the process of helping them, he finds himself.
Gotcha.
Which is why it's such a great movie.
Okay.
And Jamie Foxx and everybody else a part of it did like a really good job with it. Okay. But yeah, like, oh man, this like really makes me want to watch Soul again because it was. There's one scene in particular that I'm not going to tell you because it's not even really spoilery, but
you just want me to experience it. Yeah.
But it's like not even like a 5-minute segment. And like when we watch, if we watch it together, if you watch it by yourself, I'll point it out and I'll be like, yo, because like I think when I went back and watched it, like when I was watching it for the first time, and it's such just like a powerful scene because there's so many like thoughts and emotions going on. But I think Soul had a really good message because when it came out, a lot of people too talked about how like this movie makes you think. And like I started the movie at one point, I got maybe like 30-45 minutes into it, and then I just stopped for whatever reason, and then I restarted the movie and I watched it again. Great decision, by the way, because it taught me a lot, and it's kind of like a main point now, I guess, of this conversation. But it had such a powerful and like a really good message, and going along with like Inside Out and the process of like core memories and how important the imagination is to a child and like emotions. But yeah, I thought Soul had a really good message, especially as it, like I said, pertains to this topic, because not only did he die in the movie quite unexpectedly, but also how many of us can look back and say, like, if you were to die tomorrow and you went through some sort of process like in Soul where you went back and you looked at your life, how many of us can say really that we're proud of what we lived?
Yeah.
And I think, to not try and get too deep, because this could be like a whole other podcast topic conversation, that's what I'm kind of like struggling with right now, is, and it revolves back around to the Logan Paul thing, which is what he was talking about, which was your 20s, don't worry about what I'm worrying about, which I'm about to say, is I want to have already been on, or very soon be on, a path of like, when you're gone, people still talk about you, and not in the sense of like you'll be remembered.
You just want to feel like you left your imprint.
Yeah, and it, like, also because there's probably plenty more like culture references and stuff that I can bring up to it, but also this isn't his quote, but it was from a song. But Macklemore, in one of his songs, I can't remember which song it was, said, "You die twice. Once when they bury you in the grave, and the second time's the last time somebody mentions your name."
Yeah.
Which, like, family and stuff like that, people are gonna like remember you and everything like that. But it's, I guess the goal or the dream is to have more than just like your family or like close friends remember you, which also I guess you could say is maybe why I started this in the first place. Is I think that part of my gift, or what I believe to be my gift, as trying to sound as non-narcissistic as possible, is I love talking.
Yeah.
And if I can, I talk mostly to try and help other people, because I think that sometimes there's conversations or subjects that people don't want to talk about or don't want to have. Not really like the controversial, like, politics and stuff like that.
Just like touchy subjects.
Yeah, but it's also too, like, I think still we're kind of in a society, or we live in a society where, and like this could go the whole like toxic masculinity thing, but people don't really like open up too much. I mean, and if they do, they're afraid that people are going to look at them and be like, that's not the person that I know. Like, because most people would see me as just kind of being like a funny guy, always has a pretty good attitude at work or at school or whatever. You're pretty outgoing, like, and funny, so like you fall on like the same spectrum of that.
I'm the same way. Like, everyone knows me as he's always happy, he always brings up uplifting spirits, always doing something. We go gym guy. Like, yeah, that's what everyone sees me as.
But then behind closed doors, or even like some of the discussions we've already had, that's not always the case. So in the process of helping people with my words, I'm also helping myself, because I feel like it's also super important to, which is why, again, I created this in the first place, was even if nobody listens to this, like if it's just me watching it 40,000 times over and over again, it just helps talking about it sometimes. And it goes back to soul and what I was talking about of I want to live a life that meant something in the end. And I know that hopefully I have years and years left of proving that, not just to the world but to myself. But I think watching that movie and just kind of going through what I go through on a daily basis and kind of the crisis that I'm going through right now about trying to find my purpose is teaching me a lot about myself. Because, and the reason I brought up the whole topic of patience in the first place was I know that I'm rushing it and I know that I don't need to be, but also at the same time, like I think all the time about I don't want to live in regret, and like recently I don't think I've regret too much, but I think too sometimes, like if I were to, God forbid, if I were to die like soon or like unexpectedly or something,
knock on wood.
Yeah. I don't want to speak this into existence, but like, and I'm curious, like if you've ever thought about this too, like if there's some people that you need to say something to, but you either haven't seen them in a while or you just have like never found the right time, writing down on a piece of paper, and then if you were to be gone again, God forbid, like somebody finds that paper and they're like, damn, Thomas never said this to me, or damn, Cole never said this. And part of the gift that lies in my room is under that philosophy of I want to be genuine and I want to be honest with people, and I don't want to sugarcoat anything, because that just falls under lying, and I hate lying. I want to be as honest as I can.
Yeah.
But it all revolves around me trying to come to terms and be like happy with who I am right now and do the best that I can to use what I believe is to be my gift to find myself while also helping others do the same.
It's really interesting to hear like you say this, especially since like I feel like I have known you for like years and years and years. But like we really rekindled like I would say like a month and a half ago, after like a year break from, even though we live right next to each other, we just have like busy life, especially me. I have like a hectic life that like I'm never at the apartment anymore, ever. So like if I even am at the apartment, it's either me eating and sleeping. But it's really interesting to hear you say these things, especially hearing from like you from a year and a half ago, or like a year ago versus now. Like it's really relieving to like hear you say that, considering like if you said like if I heard you say that like a year ago, I felt like I wouldn't really believe it. I'm not saying that to like bash on you or anything, but I feel like you're more determined now about that, because like I was the same way for a while. Like you know me. Like I would say like a year and a half ago, more like I would always try to say like, all right, I'm gonna go on a diet, try to lose some more weight.
Yeah.
But the next day I would eat McDonald's or like go to Cookout with you. But like now I actually have like turned my life. At least I feel like have turned my life a lot more around with the aspects where I meal prep a lot now. I make my own food. I don't go out to eat as often anymore because now I save money for that. And like it's just we've grown up more, and it's good to hear that you say that, because I personally feel like you have a lot to offer and you have left a imprint or a mark on this world. Granted, it might not seem like it to you, because it's kind of like the best way I could really like this is such a weird analogy. It's the only one I could think of right now. There's probably a better one out there, but like it's kind of like trying to see progress that you've made throughout the years. And I only say this because this is what I've been doing, like seeing progress throughout like going to the gym. So like obviously when you go to the gym for like 5 years, this is for me personally, like I've gone to the gym for like 2.5 years. I feel like I haven't seen any progress from the first time I started working out to now. Everyone tells me like, oh man, you look bigger, like you look a lot skinnier, or like you look like stronger. In my opinion, I feel like I look the same exact guy.
I think you look bigger.
I appreciate that, but I don't agree. That's the thing. It's like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying, because even though you feel like you haven't felt like you found, I guess, like your meaning or like what you offer, people from the outside see like you have. It seems like you have found that. You have that purpose. You have that drive to leave a mark on the world.
Yeah.
And like, that's where sometimes you kind of have to take a step back and like listen to what people have to say, or like listen to what people have to offer until you remind you. Because like you saying you think I look bigger and like look stronger is like still a little reminder, like, okay, I'm making progress regardless if I see it or not. Like, yeah, it's still working. I just have to trust the process. And I think that's what you have to do right now. Just trust the process right now and just keep going with it.
Yeah. So, I think that stems a pretty cool analogy. What's up, man?
What's up?
Doing a little podcasty right now, so. No, you're good. I'm not saying it to be like, shut up.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I think that that stems actually kind of a pretty cool analogy. Like if we think about it, which is through the gym, like on a physical scale, you can literally like, you might not see it, but like you can literally like see your progress. Like you've gotten bigger, you've gotten leaner, depending on whatever you're going for. Yeah. But in terms of like a mentality or like within, you won't really. I'll put it like this. So, like this, and I'll share this with people, and we could talk about this or like expand upon it in a different installment. But my birthday, I've never been a big fan of like doing something crazy or doing something special. But every year, I'm constantly reminded of all the wonderful people that I've met, and I think that that's in a sense kind of, now that I think about it, and now that you brought it up, is kind of like my gym. Is because I see my growth through numbers rather than like size. Size can still be number, but you know what I'm going. Yeah. Because this most recent birthday, almost everybody at that table. No, not almost everybody. Everybody at that table was new. Last birthday, almost the same thing, except for maybe like a couple people that were there prior. But every year, there's new people that I didn't think would be there the year prior. So I think that's actually really cool to like bring up, like the kind of you alley-ooping it with the gym analogy is that's my gym, is kind of just seeing growth through people and having people tell me, because I had somebody tell me the other day that basically the same thing that you told me, which even though I hear this, I'm still, and I appreciate it, obviously, but I think it's just the self, you don't think it's true because you're, like I said, I'm still learning that about myself, but I had somebody else say to me the other day that, like, I have such a pure heart and, like, words are my gift. Yeah. So, to hear that and that reassurance is really nice, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, like what you're going off of the gym thing.
I feel like whoever said that is very, like, it is very true, as much as like maybe you don't really like 100% agree with it, like you feel like you like don't fully, I guess, have taken that on, but I completely agree with it, just because like it's always a pleasure and like it's very enjoyable to talk to you about things like this, like regardless of what it is. Like even before we started this podcast, we were just laughing our butts off from you just saying 3 random words by accident, or just it was just funny. Like regardless of what you say, it's funny or it's enlightening, or it's always like, always interesting to listen and like hear your perspective or my perspective on things, because like the way you see things is very I wouldn't say abnormal, but very, what's the word? Something just...
That didn't sound good.
Sounds like someone just broke into our apartment.
Oh, cool.
But the way you see things and like the outlook you have on like certain perspectives or certain situations is close to, I would say close to rare compared to, is not the average like perspective or average ideal, which is very relieving to hear and see, because like I always hear other people basically say the same thing as other people, or I always hear a similar idea from another one, but yours is always different, or always, you know, true to you, and it's always like very interesting to hear about, because I most of the time 100% agree. So
I mean, I appreciate you saying that, first of all, but also I think it goes towards what I was saying earlier, which was not me, but it's just so rare for people to like talk about stuff like that, or like stuff like this, because they're afraid of the public perception of like, what are you doing? Why would you talk about that? Like, this isn't what we're used to. I think over the years, people have been accustomed now more to accepting that, like, that's who I am. Like, I talk about stuff like this. If not, surprise. But
Welcome.
Yeah. But I think that part of it's gonna get really like introspective, but I think that part of our existence is so like crucial to have these kinds of conversations, because if you don't, and I know plenty of people like this, you're just gonna eat yourself out from the inside thinking about stuff like this.
Always.
So it always just helps to get the stuff off your chest, even if you don't think anybody's listening. If it's just yourself listening, sometimes, because I even talk. I say I talk to myself. That sounds like I need to be instated somewhere. But
you talk yourself through.
That, yes, that's a better way of explaining it. Is I don't know where I was gonna go, but
I think you're trying to say like you talk yourself through things, even though like it might sound like you're just talking to yourself, but like sometimes I do the same thing. Like every time, like if I'm just sitting in my room, I literally, like if I know I have to do something, I'm like, all right, Thomas, like you have to get up, we have to fold laundry, you have to do some stuff before this happens. Like I literally have to talk myself through to getting out of bed, where it's like my comfort zone, especially if it's like 9 a.m. and I have to be up and be at lifts or something like 10 or 11 a.m. So like it's normal to talk yourself through things.
Yeah.
Literally talk to yourself. Like literally, in my opinion, if you don't talk to yourself or like talk through things with yourself, I wouldn't say that you're not normal, but I feel like I don't know how you would feel sane, or like how you would, you know, get things done, unless you talk to like people probably talk to themselves or talk through themselves within here, like in their brain, and like I still would consider that like talking through things, as much as like you're not actually saying words to yourself. But I do that all the time. I'm like, all right, I'm hungry, let's go make food, and I feel like it's a very like human thing to do, and I think we all need that, honestly.
It's also too like I think it's pretty interesting. Obviously, I fall under this belief, but I think we do need to, as people, be more open to like, because there's some people that I think would fall under our category of what I was talking about earlier, which is like on the outside we just seem kind of like very positive and uplifting individual, or at least I like to think so. But there's been some people either at work or school or wherever it is where I'll see that they are generally like very positive individuals, but then there'll be some day where they're just super quiet or like not feeling themselves. I'm like, are you okay? And then they'll either give me like a glimpse of what they're going through or not at all, which obviously is fine because I respect their privacy. But some people just kind of like, okay, and like just not talk to them or just kind of like leave them alone. But I've always now, at least for the past few years, tried to extend the olive branch and just be like, I might not be the most qualified person and we might not know each other very well. If you need to talk though, I will listen to you.
Yeah, I'm always that kind of person too, especially with my friends. Recently I've been the other end of the stick, where a lot of people has been extending that to me a lot more, just because of like circumstances that I was in recently, and stuff like that. But I'm usually like that person too, where people are going through things, and like I always ask like, hey, if you ever want to talk, like do you need something, do you need anything from me? Like it could literally just be me sitting there listening. It could literally just be being there just to be a shoulder to cry on, or literally be there just to have someone there, like so they don't feel alone, you know? Like, and I feel like that's an aspect that like people overlook nowadays, because people feel like anyone can do that, but in all reality, it's not. I feel like only people I wouldn't say qualified, but I feel like are comfortable with doing that. It should be the ones doing that. Like, for you, I feel like you're one of the most comfortable people to do that with, in my opinion, because I talk to you a lot about random things. Granted, it might not be like, well, I mean, I talk to you about literally everything for the most part, about things that's going on in my life, things about relationship, things about my family, like, my family situations, my relationship situations, things that's happened, and you're just an easy person to talk to about those things. And people say the same things about like me as well. People say like I'm just an easy person to talk to, even though most of the time I just don't say anything. I just sit there and listen. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need someone just to be there for you.
Yeah.
So I think having that aspects of comfortness really outweighs the aspects of qualifications, because if you look at it in even in society, right, the rates for people going to therapy are actually pretty low, even though the people that are therapists are the most qualified. But some people just don't feel like that level of comfortness with their therapist.
Yeah.
So I think comfortness is what shouldn't outweigh qualifications, because obviously qualifications is important. But like, I feel like that's more, I feel like that's what people look for more, and be opening up to people and stuff like that about.
Yeah. I think we can end with this because we're at the hour and a half mark. So I don't want this to be.
It felt like it was 2.5 hours.
I don't want this to be a super long podcast where people just start like bleh, and then just give up halfway through. Yeah. But I'll say this, and then we'll try and finish it back with our old patience discussion. But I think the one thing that you were kind of alluding to, but also was just kind of, I guess, an overall message of the discussion that we just had is I could be flip-flopping this, so hopefully I get it right, or like, you know where I'm going.
I'll help you out if you need it.
A lot of people might hear you, but they don't listen. Yeah. So I think we need to be better, because obviously I can improve on this, even though some people might say like, well, you already do a really good job of it. It's very, I don't want to say very rare, it's more rare, I guess you could say, to have somebody that will listen to you or hear you, but also they'll like give you feedback or like tell you how you can actually, if it's a problem that you're going through, maybe like certain solutions that they can provide to you that might help you out in the long run. So if there's a lesson to take from what we just said, I think that should be a big one. But also going back to, and you might have to help me out here because I'm trying to loop it back.
I got you, don't worry.
But the concept of patience and not really waiting for life to come to you, you just kind of like take it head on. I think, and a lot of this too kind of revolves around fear, because fear of failure is like a huge thing that a lot of people struggle with, myself included, like really badly. I'm a firm believer that there's a time and a place for things to happen. But I think in all, you can't live in fear of. It kind of goes back to what I was saying. You can't live in the fear of regret, because I don't want to live my life being like, you know what, if I don't say this to this person tomorrow, I'm going to hate myself for it. So there's a time and a place to do things. I'm still learning that, obviously, and I don't have to explain to you why, but there's stuff that I'm going through where I definitely need to take things a day at a time and not try and force anything. But yeah, did you have any closing comment?
I kind of am the same way as well. Like I feel like I have learned the idea of like time and place and like being patient, but at the same time still like taking life head on. But I think when it comes to, as a general rule, when it comes to life, like it's always good to be patient, but you have to understand when to draw the line for patience.
Yeah.
Especially from recent, I feel like from recent events in my life, I've learned that waiting isn't always the key for. So going back to the idea of like what you're saying, like waiting for the perfect time or waiting for a time and place. Sometimes it's not always about the time and place. It's about making that time and place.
Yeah.
So like a great example for me would be like this girl I was talking to like a while back. I didn't know she had feelings for me, and she didn't know I had feelings for her.
Yeah.
But I just randomly was just like, let's go on a date Wednesday, and she was like, okay. Like that wouldn't have happened if I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And like I was just feeling ballsy that day, I guess. I think probably that day after the gym, I just had a great gym session.
You get them endorphins going
Yeah,
on,
I probably
the
had
adrenaline rush.
I had that dopamine endorphins going, and like I probably did something really good at the gym. I was just feeling
all the
myself.
hormones, yeah.
Probably. So I was just like, let's go. I guess I was feeling ballsy or something. But like, if I didn't say that, nothing would have ever unraveled from that. Nothing at all. I promise you that. And like, that was something that I've learned, especially that event. I learned that like sometimes, rather than waiting for the right, well, I mean, I would say waiting for the right person is a good example of patience. But I would say in order to, if you're trying to do things in your life, I don't think waiting to do it is the best time. Sometimes you have to tackle it head on. For me, the biggest lesson I learned from that one was the gym. Years ago when I was living in Raleigh, I would always tell myself, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. Like today, I'm tired from school, stuff like that. All right, next day, didn't go to the gym. I was just tired. Kept making excuses. I said, all right, I know this is going to be hard. I can't make excuses. I just got to go, regardless of what happens. If I'm tired, take some coffee. If I'm tired, take some sort of energy to keep going. And then like it slowly got easier and easier. Sometimes you just have to tackle it head on. Same thing with assignments. Like I have to wait. Sometimes I'm like, all right, like today I'm so tired I can't think properly. When am I going to think properly? Tomorrow's not going to be any different than today, so I got to tackle it head on. So I think being able to tackle things head on, with having that level of patience for certain things and like having that time and place is what we have to understand as human beings in order to be successful in things that we want. And I think you're learning that. I'm not saying I learned it. I'm still learning it as well, just as much as you are. But it is something that it's something that we shouldn't also do alone. I feel like we have people in our lives, especially like I have you have me. We have like other people in our lives to help each other during this process, during this journey.
Yeah.
Because like I know before when we weren't talking or like weren't hanging out as much, like I know you were kind of like on your own path for a while, and I was on my own path for a while. Sometimes being in that own path by yourself is enlightening and helpful, but we gotta, when we stray off that path, you just gotta have someone else to bring you back. So
I think to leave this, two things popped in my head. First of all, another movie reference, which that's just gonna be a theme throughout these podcast
Cole
episodes.
Watches so much more movies than I do. It kind of blows my mind.
Well, this one you can relate to.
Oh, okay, cool. So,
I'm pretty sure you saw Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Oh,
Spider-Man?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was years ago, but yeah.
This popped in my head, but the That's All It Is, Miles. It's a Leap of Faith. Mm-hmm. I think that popped in my head when you're talking.
Yeah,
but also what you ended on, which was great minds think alike, I guess. Always try your best to be there for other people, but if you can't, always be there for yourself.
Always.
I think is a really big thing to think about.
Always.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think this ended pretty well.
I think it's a good place to stop. Yeah. We're, what is it? An hour and 43 minutes in.
That's not bad.
If you've made it this far listening, I love you.
Oh, if you made it this far, thank you. I honestly appreciate it because me and Cole have these conversations not all the time, but like it's
a glimpse into
our 4-hour conversation.
How long we can talk about.
Yeah, we talk about things all the time, and like we wanted to do this just because like I know some people might find it interesting. If not, then like we can have the basic "How are you doing today?" conversations with other people.
Yeah.
We're more in depth.
Ours are going to be longer, probably. Our conversations, when we have guests on. Who knows? Maybe they'll be longer, but I know for sure that ours are probably going to be.
Oh yeah, conversations that me and Cole have can. I mean, you guys heard today. We went on like 4 tangents within like the hour and 45 minutes.
Try to tie it all back in together at the end, but But I'm pretty proud of what we were able to accomplish today.
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you. So this isn't our first time doing a podcast before. We tried to do one like years ago when we were in high school, but that one was a mess because that was. You remember doing that?
Well, we didn't even really like get our foot in the door for that.
Well, we like attempted one, but we tried to do it about like games and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Because we also didn't have like the equipment and stuff we have now. So
yeah, this equipment that you got is fancy, even though it might not seem fancy, but like it's kind of fancy in my opinion.
I try.
Yeah, I'm glad you bought it because damn well I wasn't gonna buy it.
I'm expecting reimbursement, by the way. We'll talk about that later. No.
You got a job, not me.
I'm just kidding.
What you mean?
But yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Do you have anything else you wanted to finish with?
Well, I was gonna say thank you for coming to a glimpse of the perspectives of our lives.
That's going to be obviously an operative word throughout this series. So hopefully,
the title of the podcast.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, hopefully, whoever's out there, you come on this journey with us. Because, like I said, if nobody else is there, then I'll be
here for ourselves.
I'll be here. So, but yeah, Cole Thomas signing off. See you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.